Do you think you can hide everything, don't you? Those dark secrets you believe will never be uncovered? Well, the truth always finds a way. And what happens when the mask of lies finally falls? When what you feared to be exposed is revealed with a brutal clarity you never imagined possible. This is not a fiction story. It's the story of someone like you, someone who saw their life turned upside down by a simple decision. And believe me, you will understand exactly how this all unfolded, because what happened to him could happen to anyone. Imagine the pain, the shock, and the confusion that arises when you find out that the person you trusted the most has betrayed you. And even more so, imagine the frustration of trying to control what seems out of control. What would you do? The infidelity story you're about to hear isn't just about an affair, but about how the truth, no matter how cruel, can be the key to a new life. It's not an easy journey, but it's a journey of discovery, growth, and forgiveness. Do you think you're ready to hear what really happened? Because the detective revealed much more than he expected to find. Before we go any further, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, like, and share this video. I bet you won't want to miss what's coming next. So get ready for a story that will change the way you view the world of infidelity and betrayal. When it comes to infidelity, few things are more intense than the real experience of those who have gone through it. The story we're about to share is based on a true confession from someone who had the courage to open their heart and expose a pain that many hide. It's incredible how, by hearing these infidelity stories, we can learn more about ourselves and the complex paths relationships can take. Often, these stories aren't just about the mistake made, but also about the pain, regret, and the hard choices that arise after betrayal. The truth is that these infidelity stories, like the one we'll explore here, happen more often than we'd like to admit. But what's fascinating is how people manage to rebuild themselves after such a devastating event. That's what makes these stories so human, full of mistakes, bad choices, but also redemption and reconstruction. Sometimes, amidst the pain, a strength emerges that the person didn't even know they had. Life is full of moments that seem impossible to overcome, but stories of betrayal and infidelity show us that recovery, although difficult, is possible. Our goal here is not just to tell a story of betrayal, but to understand the human process behind it. How do the lies begin to build? How do the justifications take shape? And in the end, the consequences arrive, often in ways no one expects. That's what makes confessions of infidelity, like the one we're going to explore, so powerful. They show us the untold sides of a betrayal story and how the protagonist, often, has to make decisions that will change their life forever. And who knows, along the way, it may inspire those going through something similar to change their choices. Sometimes, the small things speak louder than we think. When the narrator began to notice that something was different with Emily, it was a series of subtle, but undeniable signs that alerted him to the possible betrayal. First, it was the distant behavior. The once affectionate attention, the gestures of love that were common, simply disappeared. Emily was becoming more and more absent, not just physically, but emotionally. This left the narrator with a strange feeling, a sense that something was wrong, even though she tried to hide it. Often, when we're in a relationship, we ignore these early signs, but here, the narrator couldn't. Next, there was the expensive gift. An apparently no-reason gift, an item that, to him, seemed excessive and out of place, as if the gift were an attempt to cover up something. Many who go through infidelity in their relationships know exactly what this is about. It may seem like a sweet gesture, but the intention behind it can be something completely different. The question that arises is, why did Emily feel the need to buy such an expensive gift, especially when the family finances were not in the best shape? Perhaps she was trying to ease her guilt or simply distract her husband from something deeper that was happening behind closed doors. And, of course, there was the strange phone call about the car accident. An excuse that seemed rehearsed, but made no sense at all. She seemed uncomfortable, hesitant, and the narrator knew something wasn't right. This is something that many people who face betrayal can relate to, the discovery of lies told to cover up the truth. These situations begin to overlap, and reality becomes impossible to ignore. The narrator, just like many of us, felt he was being led into a labyrinth of lies and justifications. But the real question was, what would he do now? When suspicion begins to grow and the evidence starts to accumulate, it's natural to want to understand what's happening, even when your heart refuses to believe the reality. The narrator, in a moment of pure intuition, finds condoms hidden in Emily's bag before her business trip. They weren't just condoms, but concrete proof that something was happening. When these items appear out of nowhere, out of context, they make it clear that betrayal has already crossed the line of words and excuses. The narrator knew that from that moment on, he had to act with caution. Sometimes, doubt turns into certainty in a painfully clear way, and this was making the decision to hire a private investigator wasn't an easy one. Many hesitate, thinking about the consequences or the invasion of privacy, but when it comes to infidelity, especially when the lies seem more convincing than the truth, the need for proof becomes undeniable. The narrator, driven by the pain and anger of betrayal, chose to seek answers in a practical way, and this is what many do when they feel powerless in the face of an unsettling situation. Hiring a private investigator may seem like an extreme measure, but often, it's the only way to deal with a situation of betrayal when trust has already been broken. What the narrator didn't know is that, by making this decision, he was about to embark on a journey that would change his life forever. The investigator, without hesitation, would deliver physical evidence that Emily was indeed involved with another man. This brought a sense of relief, but also sadness, because the confirmation of infidelity is never easy to digest. However, the truth is that, often, one must confront reality in order to take control of their own life. The pain of betrayal only grows when the truth is being hidden, and the narrator knew that by learning the truth, he would have the power to decide his next step. But the question now was, how would he react to this revelation? When the confirmation finally arrived in the form of photos taken by a private investigator, the weight of betrayal became undeniable. It's one of those truths that, no matter how much you avoid it, ends up knocking on your door in a brutal way. The narrator, seeing images of Emily with another man, realizes that what he had feared for so long is real. This sensation is something that many dealing with infidelity can relate to. The shock that comes when betrayal is confirmed, not as a rumor or a suspicion, but with clear and visible proof. The pain is immense, but at the same time, clarity also arrives. The future now needs to be rewritten. Faced with this truth, the narrator makes a difficult but necessary decision. He contacts a lawyer. When trust is broken in a marriage, the divorce process is not only legal, but also emotionally draining. In the narrator's case, he knew that the custody of his young daughter would be the priority. When a child is involved, divorce decisions become even more complex. The narrator, like many parents in similar situations, needs to ensure that his daughter's well-being isn't affected by a mistake made by the mother. He now faces a separation process that, although inevitable, brings a sense of loss that is hard to put into words. The decision to focus on the custody of his daughter is crucial. After all, custody issues are some of the most sensitive points in any divorce, especially when infidelity is at the center of the separation. For the narrator, the fight wasn't just for justice in the marriage, but for the stability and well-being of his daughter. He knew that by taking this step, he was forever changing the family dynamic, but also freeing himself from the lies and pain. And now, the question hanging in the air was, how would he rebuild his life after this? After the divorce, the pain was still fresh, but there was also a sense of relief. The narrator was free, or at least he thought he was. Emily, somehow, trying to redeem herself, proposed a solution: therapy. It was an attempt to fix what she knew was wrong, but to the narrator, this proposal seemed more like a way to ease her own guilt than a real attempt to repair the relationship. Often, in situations of infidelity, one party tries to offer solutions that are not what the other really needs. Therapy, to the narrator, was just Emily trying to regain control of the situation, but he had already decided to move on. It was then that the narrator found a new reason to look forward to the future. Sarah, a co-worker, entered his life in an unexpected but refreshing way. The relationship with Sarah wasn't an escape, but an opportunity to start anew, away from the shadows of betrayal. The narrator, now in a moment of self-discovery, found in Sarah a genuine support, someone with whom he could build something new. Sometimes, when the heart is broken, what you need is not to recover an old love, but to create a new space for happiness. Sarah not only brought something new, but helped the narrator reconnect with his own identity, something he had lost amidst the pain and betrayal. However, the situation with Emily was still not completely resolved. Her attempts at reconciliation, such as suggesting therapy, became more frequent. She seemed to want to go back, to try to restore what she had lost. But to the narrator, this was just another reminder of what he had already overcome. He was on a journey of reconstruction, and alongside Sarah, he felt he was getting closer to finding the peace and happiness he had long sought. And now, the real question was, how far would Emily go to try to recover what she had lost, and how would the narrator continue his journey with Sarah? As the relationship with Sarah deepened, the narrator began to realize how profoundly he had changed. What once seemed like a world full of pain and distrust was now transforming into a new reality, more positive and full of possibilities. Sarah brought to the narrator not only a new love, but also a sense of peace that he had lost during the months of anguish. Often, new relationships are not just an escape from the past, but a way to rebuild oneself. By Sarah's side, he wasn't just healing a broken heart. He was creating a solid foundation for the future, something he never would have imagined while still stuck on the idea of fixing what was broken. As the narrator reconnected with happiness, Emily began to show increasingly desperate signs of wanting to reclaim what she had lost. Her attempts at reconciliation were not just apologies. They were silent cries of regret, mixed with the anger of loss. Emily was beginning to realize, too late, that the betrayal had corroded the foundations of what was once a solid relationship. And although the narrator had already made the decision to move on, the more Emily tried to regain control, the further he pulled away. This is something many face after betrayal. When someone tries to win back what is already gone, it can cause more harm than repair. But deep down, the narrator knew that the most important thing now was the well-being of his daughter. Co-parenting, although challenging, became a priority. He and Emily needed to keep things civil, not for them, but for the daughter they both loved. It was a painful but essential lesson. Even when relationships fail, the responsibility for children never disappears. And so, the narrator kept his balance, trying to be a good father while continuing to rebuild his life with Sarah. In the end, the real question the narrator needed to answer was, could he maintain this balance between love and responsibility while distancing himself from everything that betrayal represented? After everything you've heard, the question that remains is, what will you do with this knowledge? If you're in a moment of pain, feeling lost or disillusioned, now is the time to reflect. What will your next step be? How will you apply what you've learned to change your own life? Perhaps it's time to start rebuilding. Perhaps it's time to take a step back and look at the people around you with new eyes. The pain of betrayal is not easy, but it can be the doorway to a new journey, one where you truly find your inner strength. Now, think carefully. What would you do if you were in the protagonist's shoes? Would you stay stuck in pain and regret, or would you choose peace and reconstruction? Even if it was hard, the power of change is in your hands, and the first step may be simpler than you think. Apply what you've learned, be courageous, and take control of your destiny. Don't let fear or shame rule your life. If you're ready to take that step, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the knowledge you're seeking is here, waiting for you to transform your life. Share this video with someone you believe could benefit from this story, and let's continue learning together.